Hey, happy Monday, April Fools. I was up until I was up until 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get my March wrap-up video posted, which doesn't make any sense. I should have just gone to bed and tried today because obviously it wasn't happening. But I had so many technical issues. I never had that many problems posting a video ever. I think the issue is I'm shooting on my phone in cinematic format, whatever that is with Apple, and it takes forever to process the videos and then to transfer them over to my laptop. One of the files just would not transfer. No matter how many times I tried, I turned off my phone and restarted it. I did the same thing with the laptop. I deleted files. I did all sorts of things. And finally I figured out, well, if you just do a recording from your phone, like a screen recording from the phone, you can record the video and then you'd have a QuickTime file on your computer. I don't know if this is making any sense or if you're interested in it, but that's how I got around that. But even that hack wasn't foolproof because once I put it into the video and the audio were out of sync. And so I had to separate the audio from the video and then manually try to sync it up. It was a nightmare. There were issues uploading it. I mean, it just went on and on and on and on. So here's my tip for people who would like to record on the street while doing vlogs like I'm doing right now. If you find yourself walking down the street and someone is coming towards you and they're giving you that like crazy look, just go, yeah, I know. Do you think so? Make it sound like that you're having a FaceTime call, because everyone does those. It looks like it's going to be a gloomy day. It's very overcast, but it is great lighting. Hey, happy Tuesday. I'm on my way to see Orlando. It's been raining all day and it's supposed to rain for the next 2 days. I took advantage of it and shot an April Showers tag video, and then I just shot some footage for another tag video that I'm gonna post in the future. But I'm gonna grab a real quick bite to eat and then head on into the theater. Well, it's another gloomy, rainy day. I just finished reading Huckleberry Finn in preparation for James by Percival Everett. And now, having read Huckleberry Finn, I can totally understand how people would feel uncomfortable reading it in school. At the beginning of the book, Huck doesn't view Jim as a human being. He views him as property. But as the book goes on and through their adventures together, he begins to recognize the humanity in Jim. Throughout the book, Mark Twain makes fools of the adults and shows us the hypocrisy in society. And even though Huck is supposed to be this dumb little redneck kid with no schooling, he winds up being the wisest person in the room most of the time. So I am glad I read it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Percival Everett does with it. This won't be the first retelling of Huck Finn that I've read. There was another book that came out several years ago called Finn that was also enlightening. There was a major reveal in that book that I won't tell you because it would be a major spoiler. But if you find that you are enjoying James, maybe check out Finn while you're at it. Timber! Did you do that?
Subscribe to the Bill, your guide to shaping a brighter future in our city.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the same exact thing as I did last time. Ace is with the vet, getting his ears checked, getting his meds. So I'm gonna run over here to the charity shop about 2 blocks away and see if there's any good used books that are waiting to join my collection. Looks like it struck out. Well, we just got back from the vet. The doctor said that his ears looked really good, and he's got to do another checkup, the last one hopefully in 2 weeks on 4/20 of all dates. So yeah, he seems to be on the road to recovery. Thank goodness. There's an event that takes place every year at the Park Avenue Armory, and it, without fail, I always find out about it the weekend after it happens. But this year, the ambassador of the New York Antiquarian Book Fair is Jessie Paris Smith, who is Patti Smith's daughter. And I just happened to see her post on Instagram that, hey, tonight's the preview and it's happening this weekend, and here's a discount code if you want to get tickets. And I jumped on that so fast. So I'm planning on going Saturday and seeing the panel discussion that they're going to do. The Park Avenue Armory is beautiful and it's enormous, and the vendors that come out and the books that are on display and for sale are just unbelievable. I'm going to leave my wallet at home because it's dangerous, but I've always wanted to go. It's been on my bucket list, and I can't believe that I'm finally going to get the chance to attend that event. So, yay! I'm 90% sure we just had an earthquake. At first, I thought it was a truck that went by or something. And now I'm reading on Facebook, everyone from like Brooklyn to Staten Island is like, did you guys feel that? I think we just had an earthquake. I've never been in an earthquake. That's crazy. So turns out I was correct. We had a 4.8 magnitude earthquake in New Jersey. That was really weird. I've never experienced that before. I mean, you know how rinky-dink things are here at the House of Flimsy. I thought it could have been like the machinery down in the basement, like about to blow or something. And then there were trees that went down in our neighborhood, so I thought maybe it could have been the tree removal machinery. But then I started seeing everybody online being like, did y'all feel that? Did we just have an earthquake? I'm in Brooklyn. Did you feel this? I'm in Staten Island. Did you feel this? That was nuts. Ace, by the way, was completely unfazed. He could care less. Now the news is being really obnoxious. Everyone is on there every 3 seconds describing what it felt like. There's been 2 news stories about Nina and her toppled planter in the backyard. Hardly breaking news, friends. So in other news, I finished the book James this morning, and it was really, really good. I started reading Michael Cunningham's Day, which is a novel that is set on the same day, April 5th, which is today. But it looks at April 5th, the year prior to the pandemic, during the pandemic, and then after the pandemic. And the premise sounds really cool, but the book is kind of boring. I think we might have just had an aftershock. I can't even tell anymore.
Just out in Flushing, Astoria, Riverdale, Norwalk, Northern Westchester, Bronx, Staten Island, Cliffside Park. All areas feeling aftershocks right now.
I love the book fair. I began as a voyeur because when I first came to the book fair, I really had no money. But to see the things in person that I got to see, and not in some intimidating museum, but in a very intimate place where you could, they didn't mind if you stared at a drawing by William Burroughs or the rarest print by William Blake. And you know, there's a sense of joy of sharing all of these wonderful things. So it's enriched my life, and as time went by, I was able to buy a few things, and then bring my daughter, who shared an equal love of the book fair, which is so rewarding. I just want to say it's amazing to start out as a sort of a scruffy vagabond and now be sitting here with my daughter as an ambassador.
So putting together this conversation, it was really important to me to hear the perspectives of different roles within the antiquarian world and the book fair. So I wanted to just maybe have 20 people, but it was able to have these 4 people consolidated together to cover all of these incredible roles: a bookbinder, conservator, someone from a beloved New York institution, someone who was from overseas, a bookseller in the fair, scholar, an expert in manuscripts, antiquarian books, a writer, and just patrons, beloved patrons of the fair and readers. So within these 4 people, we have all of those roles covered and more. And also wanted to choose people who had connecting threads between them. So of course this is my mom. So we have a close connecting thread, and she was the first person who brought me to the book fair. So our connection isn't just between the 2 of us, it's also because she introduced me to the book fair. So I'm very thankful for that. And she's very dear friends with Julian, and also a long-term admirer and patron of his booth at the fair. And I was a bookbinder, hope to be a bookbinder again, so really wanted to make sure to have the voice of a bookbinder and conservator, because to me they're the superstars of the antiquarian world, so she is a hero. And I know that she is a fan of Jesse, as we all are, of his accomplishments and his work. And of course he comes to us from the Morgan, which is a beloved institution to all of us. And my mom and I have performed there often. We just performed there in March and performing again next Friday. So there's all these different connecting threads between us. So that just highlights the magic of the book fair and the antiquarian world. So that was my mission with having this conversation. So I'll start with you, Mom. How can the book fair have an effect on our present culture?
Well, I think in a lot of ways, just as even though our culture has changed much since I was in my 20s, the way it affected me by seeing our heritage, our literary, scriptural, scientific, mathematic, nautical heritage in person, seeing it as objects, feeling the paper, getting a sense of the creator, getting a sense of the person who drew or wrote these words, and the sense of the passion of the binders, a passion of the people who saved these precious things. Because, you know, we are in a culture now where much of our knowledge and information is collected and assimilated and studied digitally. And here we are reminded that by seeing all of this work not captured in a cloud, but each object a cloud itself. Each book, each map, each precious fragment, photograph is a cloud unto itself. And I think it's important for each generation to see that, to know that, to taste that. And all of our, I mean, it's a business, yes, there's dealers, yes, but it's more than that. These are people who have spent their life preserving, finding, rooting out in the craziest of places our precious heritage, and then sharing it. Each thing that we'll see out there in these glass cases, whether accessible or not, are seeds. And, you know, these seeds can either be, you know, studied here or obtained to go out into the world. But I think our culture, every single generation needs to see their origins. They need to get a sense of where the knowledge, whether it's scriptural or scientific or imaginative, comes from, the creative source. And the closest we can get to the artist or the writer from the 16th, 17th, 19th century is seeing the work in person, seeing the notebooks, a letter. You know, a letter of Baudelaire brings us right to Baudelaire himself, much more than information stored. So, yes, I think, you know, we'll send those clouds out to the world, the physical clouds.
It's important to know about our origins and our history, but it's also important to see what we have forgotten about history. And I think as people bring their new research and their new collecting interests into the room, the fair becomes more reflective of what's happening outside those doors. I think Jesse's collecting interests are reflective of that, and many others who are starting to bring material into the room that isn't necessarily, you know, a leather-bound tome from the 16th century, but some of the more scrappy printed stuff that might have gotten lost in the 16th or 17th century or the 20th century that represented pieces of culture that weren't necessarily part of the history we thought of when we came to an antiquarian book fair and looked for history. And that's present culture now, because these are our interests. This is what we are learning and remembering and bringing back to the fore. So I see it as happening both ways and as being very much alive here. This isn't just a looking back, it is a participating now, in my view.
You can find so many places where past could meet the present to build the future. And I want to tell you a very short story. It was last year. I was displaying a photograph of Albert Camus, a French novelist, very famous in France. And a young kid arrived, maybe 15 years old, and he said to me, "Oh my gosh, it's Albert Camus." And first of all, I was really surprised that an American teenager knew Albert Camus. So I was already glad. And his dad arrived, and he said to him, I can't remember his first name, I'm so sorry, but he said to him, "Do you like the photograph?" "Oh, Dad, that's so amazing. The photograph is so beautiful." And Dad said to his son, "Okay, son, it's yours. I buy it." It was just a small amount of money. And I saw the kid crying. And he said to me, "Julian, it's probably one of the most beautiful days of my life." And there's just one thing he didn't know at that time, so it was probably one of the best days of my life. to see an American teenager being fascinated by a French novelist I love, and to see, he was 15, and I believe he will love French culture novels for the rest of his life. So that's good news for the future.
Another, I think, way to do more with youth outreach is to tap into the very, very vibrant energy around fan culture. There's just a lot of excitement around there. It's not just a social media thing. People are hungry for in-person experiences that speak to that fan culture. And there's some passionate fan communities out there that have some of which have been around for a while, like the Janeites, you know, the Sherlockians. You know, they're already, you know, deep in it, deep in their own fan culture. So if there were a way that the book fair could maybe have, you know, pop-ups of different fan culture-based displays where vendors are, you know, sort of donating one or two of their items in those holdings to kind of theme around a particular figure that has a lot of energy or a huge fan base, I think that would create a lot of buzz. I'm not afraid of gimmicks. I think I think gimmicks do help with the marketing aspect, and when we market positively and bring new people in the room, then they can be groomed to become more serious collectors over time, you know, and build the collections of the future. So I'm very optimistic about what's going on now. I'm very optimistic about the future. You know, when we talk about how past, present, future relates, I'm wearing it, right? You see the Morrison Company shirt, you know, those folks were invested in the craftsmanship of the past and their own vision toward a better future, and look what they produced in their present. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it's all good.
How do you decide what to bring with you, and what excites you about sharing your collection at the book fair?
That's a perfect question. My business is quite simple in real, because I'm just dealing with things I love. So to answer your question, what should I bring to the US? Things I love. And if I love it, I believe that someone else could love it too. So
like me.
So I just want to read a little quote. It is from our friend Robert Byler. He is a senior photographer at Digitization Services Department at Berkeley Library, and he wrote me this message yesterday that I just thought was so nice, so I thought I just want to read it. It's very short. As someone who has photographed rare books and manuscripts for over 30 years, I truly believe they possess a lot of the energy of the writers and previous owners. You already know all of this. There's just so many magical things associated with rare books, manuscripts, and photographs. We live through them, and we live with them. So thank you.
Hey everyone, happy Sunday. I am still geeking out over the New York International Antiquarian Book Fair. If you didn't see the last video, I attended the book fair for the first time. It's been on my bucket list forever, and I finally got to attend. And it was an extraordinary event, and I do not use that word lightly. It was incredible. If you are a book lover, it is a must-do. This was strictly a window shopping moment for the rumpus, but it didn't cost anything to look or touch, so I got my money's worth. And I also got a whole bunch of swag and catalogs, so I thought I would show you what I picked up. And the crazy thing is, these catalogs are so high quality. I mean, it's as nice as any art book you would pick up, like a coffee table book, and most of them are made exclusively for the event. I mean, look at that. That's just beautiful. So I thought I would go through some of these and just show you some highlights. There were a lot of books that I wasn't able to film because my battery died. There was a copy of Breakfast at Tiffany's that had over 1,000 diamonds on it. I mean, just insane things. Oh, you like sprayed edges? This can be yours for $4,750. It's from 1572. Ace has been sleeping all day long, and he chooses now to play with his loudest toy. Seriously? Oh, this is one that I filmed. In fact, they opened the case and I was like, oh, that's okay, that's okay. I was scared to get too close to it. But it's called Peep Show on Printed Waste. And that's priced at $2,250. A seemingly unrecorded set of 22 engravings of idealized landscapes, beautifully hand-colored and highlighted in gold, unsigned but likely executed in the Low Countries at the beginning of the 17th century. It's priced at $10,750. Just on an eye candy level, this is my favorite catalog from the day. This is from Biblio-Octopus. How cool is that? A little bookish humor. They have a first edition copy of Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. A first edition, fine and a fine dust jacket, a perfect copy. $10,000. Here's a first edition of Alan Foster's novelization of Star Wars. That's selling for $225. Hey, I have this one. Super Fudge, Judy Blume. Let's see what it's worth. It's a first edition, fine and a fine dust jacket, $125. I'll take it, but I'm not selling it. How about a first edition of Dracula? $50,000, please. The Personal History of David Copperfield, from May 1849 to November 1850, $12,500. Blood Meridian, first edition, first issue with no remainder mark, one of the first 1,883 sold. It's signed in ink. It'll set you back $10,000. Here's a fourth folio, first issue, all 39 of Shakespeare's plays. It is selling for $180,000. To be or not to be? Sadly, not to be. At least today. Someday! It's good to have goals. This is Peter Harrington's catalog. They're from London. Really nice catalog. I love the layout. On the Origin of Species by Charles Darwin, first edition, $390,000. Okay, let's talk Boy Wizard here for a second. They have the rarest of all Harry Potter proofs. It's an uncorrected proof, signed and dated by the author on the half title 3 days before publication of the first edition, is selling for $40,000. Oh, a complete set of the Pooh books, first editions, each signed by Milne and Shepard on the title pages. $65,000. What a treasure. Here's the original artwork from the House of Pooh. Good morning, Christopher Robin, he said. Are we alone? Oh, Eeyore. $125,000. The Lord of the Rings, first editions, signed on the end papers. $115,000. Let's take a moment to give it up to Peter, who came up with this extraordinary collection. I mean, I can't even wrap my head around how you transport this stuff to the armory. And I can't imagine what in the world the insurance policy must be. I mean, can you imagine how many millions, there's billions of dollars sitting under that roof. This is James Cummings. Lots of really good modern classics in here. They've got Muhammad Ali's The Greatest My Own Story, signed $3,500. Birds of America, $85,000. They have a Bible, first English Bible printed in America, $165,000. Can you imagine? Here's a copy of Huckleberry Finn and the Scarce Blue binding, $75,000. Joan Didion, A Book of Common Prayer, first edition, $7,500. It's signed and dedicated. Lord of the Flies, first edition in a fine dust jacket, $15,000. The Sun Also Rises, first edition, first issue, $225,000. First portrait of Abraham Lincoln after receiving the Republican nomination, $25,000. Why is this not in the Smithsonian? Next. This dealer has ancient books, like super old, super rare. Books dating back to, this might be the oldest, I'm not sure, 1468. This is Brommer Booksellers, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, from Boston, Massachusetts. They had a really cool display and a really cool theme. It was called Pressing Further, Voices for Justice in the Book Arts. When you learn, teach. When you get, give. As for me, I shall not be moved. I think this is another catalog that lists their books in chronological order. So it looks like their oldest book is from 1521. It's a first edition out of Scotland. Let me see if I can get it to focus. The most recent release is from 1984, the first English edition of Neuromancer. And that's priced at $10,200. Between the covers, rare books, African Americana is a beautiful, beautiful catalog. Look at this. Here we go. James Baldwin. A signed copy of Tell Me How Long the Train's Been Gone, $650. Giovanni's Room, a signed first edition, $2,000. Notes of a Native Son, $1,000. Go Tell It on the Mountain, $9,500. So priced similarly to that last dealer. Going to Meet the Man, $450, first edition, unsigned. Let's see what else. Booker T. Washington, an honorary member of the Plucky class, signed by Booker T. Washington, $7,500. Let's see if I can get it to focus. I don't know if this is interesting. I hope it's not boring to you, but I could look at this stuff all day. This was one of my favorite dealers that I saw, Burnside Rare Books. When you see what books they carry, you'll understand why. It's very aligned with my taste of books. So when I hit the jackpot, I'll be visiting them. Here's Winnie the Pooh, Huckleberry Finn, Lord of the Flies, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Howl, A Christmas Carol, a signed copy of Goldfinger, $25,000. Lots of Hemingway, lots of Hemingway. A review copy of the first edition of We Have Always Lived in the Castle, $2,500. Metamorphosis, American edition, first printing, $2,500. Winnie the Pooh, an unbelievably superb, an unbelievably superb copy of the first American edition, signed limited issue, one of 200 copies in the large paper issue, signed by Milne and Shepard, $38,000. Yes, please. Catcher in the Rye, first edition, $15,000. First edition, first printing of Slouching Towards Bethlehem by Joan Didion, $2,000. I'm on the hunt for that one, by the way. That's the only hardback I'm missing by Joan Didion. On the Road, $15,000. We have the script of West Side Story, signed by Sondheim, $8,500. Grapes of Wrath, first edition, $6,500. Mrs. Dalloway, first edition, first printing, $7,500. The Yellow Wallpaper, first edition in book form, first printing, bound in decorative paper covered boards, $15,000. Slaughterhouse 5, first edition, first printing, signed by Vonnegut, $9,500. Huckleberry Finn, first edition, first issue with errors, $25,000. Here's Gone with the Wind, first edition, first printing, with published May 1936 on the copyright page, fine in a fine first issue dust jacket. Price intact on bottom corner of front flap, $3. Now it's priced at $12,500. Doesn't this just give you hope that maybe one of these books will turn up in a thrift shop or a used bookstore and they just don't know what they have? This is another catalog that is like coffee table worthy. They did an outstanding job. I love the layout. I love the font. I mean, it's just a beautifully designed book. Wow. I didn't even know this existed. This is the original psychedelic design for the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper album. That is crazy. Check it out. It's selling for 110,000 pounds. Okay, my butt's falling asleep, so we need to wrap this up. And then this one is Little But Mighty. It is full of autographs, letters, signatures, all sorts of things. Patty, here's a cool autograph from Allen Ginsberg. 4,500. That's a good pro tip for you. It doesn't sound like a lot of money when you go like 4,500 as opposed to 4,500, you know. Here's a photograph of Paul Verlaine looking wasted. He's got a glass of absinthe in front of him and a few sheets of paper and an inkwell on the table. $4,000. Can you even see him? He kind of blends into the wall. He's there though. And then this was the catalog for the event. It tells you all about the dealers. It tells you where they're located, where their booths are at. Here's a blueprint for the layout of the event. And then this is a really cool bookmark that I picked up. It's a reprint from 1956. The Anti-Defamation League had these printed when they were facing the very real possibility of book bannings, and they reprinted it in honor of the festival, or book fair, whatever you want to call it. It felt like a festival. So yeah, if you get the opportunity to go, by all means, run. It's awesome. And then Ben Kinmont, shout out to Ben Kinmont. They were handing out tote bags, so I didn't have to lug all those catalogs around all day. So yeah, I think that's everything I want to show you. I've been talking for a long time, and I think I'm done now. Bye. Hey, it's Sunday night. I just secured tickets to a book event happening in May. And if I told you what it was, you wouldn't believe me. And that's all I'm gonna say for now. Wow. Gone. The weirdest thing about this eclipse is how quiet the neighborhood is. I've never heard it this quiet. So tonight, Simon & Schuster are celebrating their 100th anniversary, and they're throwing a big event at Town Hall right here called Author. There's going to be over 30 best-selling authors, including Frederick Bachman, Judy Blume, Ruth Ware, John Irving. I have front row seats. I don't know how much video or photos I can take, but I'm going to do my best. So come on, let's go. Good news, video is allowed.
Good evening, and welcome to Author, a Simon & Schuster Centennial Celebration.
What stagecraft the Platters have fashioned for us on this day of commemoration, they somehow managed to get the heavens above to mark the occasion by providing a total solar eclipse this afternoon. So they set a spectacular tone for our grand family reunion tonight.
How has your writing evolved through the years? How have you changed as a writer, or how has your process changed?
The process is the same. I enjoy it more. I don't have to force myself so much. I realize this is really the only thing of value that I do. And I used to do it because I had to do it, because comedians, if you don't create new material, you die. You have to do that to survive. So it was just something I would just force myself to do. And then after many, many years, I started to actually enjoy it. Now I really enjoy it a lot.
Hemingway's sentences were simple, filled with repetitions and odd variations, filled with an emotion which seemed to live in the space between the words. And I was no longer a bad barman. I was no longer a bad poet. I was living in a book. And that book opened up possibilities. Within 4 years, I would myself be living in Spain, as the characters in that novel do. Within a few years more, I had a typewriter and I had an idea.
The last night on our honeymoon that we had an overnight train, it was a shared train compartment. And we were in with a brother and sister from Atlanta, Georgia, and they recognized me from the TV show, and we talked all night about our shared love of books. And the next morning, the sister said, "Are you gonna go make more TV shows?" And I said, "I'm gonna write a novel." And she gave me her business card on the platform and said, "I work for Simon & Schuster. If you read that novel, if you write that novel, I would like to read it. And I thought, this is great. I've got a title. I've told my wife I'm going to do it. I met somebody from Simon & Schuster. I just need an idea.
I was told, you cannot do this. You cannot let a young woman enjoy her sexuality.
We're all here because a young woman enjoyed this. That's why we're here.
And I live in Key West, which happens to be, even though we deny it, in the state of Florida. That book is banned in the state of Florida.
Wow.
Because a young woman enjoys her sexuality.
I am so honored to share the stage with so many illustrious authors. And I gotta share this with you. Not 15 minutes ago, Doris Kearns Goodwin showed me the way to the bathroom.
Now, I wrote this speech on the airplane from Sweden to America, which was great because of the time difference. Americans call that jet lag. I call it a procrastinator's dream. Because Sweden is 6 hours ahead of New York, so I left home Sunday evening, and when I arrived here, it was still Sunday evening. The customs official asked me where I was traveling from, and I answered, the future. So, if you hear a strange sound now, that's my agent regretting her career choices. But it's too late now, Ariel.
Simon & Schuster and I first met in 1968 when somebody came down from New York and asked my husband Milton and me to write the Washington Underground Gourmet, part of its series on cheap eats. It practically destroyed our marriage, and we got very fat, but it was a start.
Writing first books is hard. Writing second books is harder. I wonder, and this is probably not the place to say this either, but I wonder why the heck I do this a lot of the time. And I know why I do it. I love the work. I love storytelling. So much of the narrative of Me Other Black Girl was more about who I am, or who I was, really, because I feel like I've outgrown Nella in my own way. I've had to lead conversations, I've had to speak out, especially while making the TV show, because woo, that stuff is hard. And I've had to just really lean into the craft again, and that's the most beautiful part of it all, right?
As a young writer, if you have a good editor, you develop the confidence to take risks. You know your editor will catch you if you fall.
My brother was killed by a drunk driver when he was 19, and the drunk driver was not held accountable for his murder. And so it was a court document, right, where that person was actually charged with leaving the scene of an accident. And I saw that court document when I was like 23 years old, and the complete erasure of that document, I think that set me on my path.
I guess what I have learned over the years from my imposter syndrome is not to ignore that little voice inside your head, to try to listen to it, learn from it when you can, let it make you more careful, more diligent, more exacting, but don't let it make you afraid, and never, ever let it shut you up.
I don't think you used to be able to be a leader without having read, maybe not right, but at least read enough to know about American history and your place in it and what it is you were trying to achieve. And now, you know, attention spans have shrunk so much that people believe that, you know, sound bites and clicks and, you know, videos substitute for, you know, really reading and immersing yourselves in history. And I do think there's a big danger that we're forgetting big chunks of our history and therefore missing the lessons we should be learning, because there are patterns in human nature, human life, human interactions, and the decisions that leaders are faced with. I'm teaching a course now at Columbia about, you know, crisis decision making, and it's all about how do leaders get the information they need to make decisions. And it's not just in the moment that you look, but how does that moment connect to previous times, and what do you learn from that? So I'm
hoping that we can have more of an effort to try to re-educate ourselves about our own history through reading, and those able, like yourself, through writing, to make it an even richer story.
We have typewriters, if you remember what those are. And Carl's typing away in one room, I'm typing in another room, and Alice comes up to me with a big sheaf of content from the book, about 90 pages, and she said, now this 90 pages, you need to cut 2. And cutting 2 out of 90? No problem at all. And she said, no, you cut the 90 pages down to 2. A painful moment.
My recording of it has been used in over 40 motion pictures and TV shows, so you've probably heard this before, but this time you may want to follow the storyline. I was tired of my lady. We'd been together too long. Like a worn-out recording of a favorite song. So while she lay there sleeping, I read the paper in bed. And in the personal column, there was this letter I read. It goes, if you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, if you're not into yoga, if you have half a brain, if you like making love at midnight in the dunes on the Cape, then I'm the love that you look for. Write to me and escape.
Hey, it's raining today, unfortunately. So I picked up the Manningtree Witches and started thumbing through it, and I'm on the 3rd chapter. So I know I said I was planning on only reading new releases this month, but rules are made to be broken, right? Right. Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. They're shooting another episode of Law and Order SVU in the neighborhood, so it's a little crazy around here today. I think I'm gonna make an escape and go to Target and pick up some groceries, and while I'm there I'll head over to Thriftland and see if any of those books that were at the antiquarian book fair are on the shelves. Wouldn't that be wonderful to find a book that's worth, I don't know, $285,000 just on the shelf of Thriftland for $1, $2? I'd be down for that. The only thing is, I don't think that I could ever part with a book like the ones that we saw in that book fair. I'd have to hang on to them forever. Oh. Say boop. Oh. Hey, it's Friday. I'm just being a lazy bum at the moment. I think I might have overdosed on books. I think I had such an incredible time at the book fair and then at the author event. Now I'm looking at my stack of books and I don't want to read a single one of them. It's the weirdest feeling. I don't know what it is. Hey everybody, happy Saturday. I am busy editing the video you are watching right now. How weird is that? I thought we would take a moment to just talk about the books I've been reading this week. I unexpectedly picked up a copy of A.K. Blakemore's debut novel, The Manning Tree Witches. A.K. Blakemore is the author that wrote what has been my favorite book of the year so far, The Glutton. Methinks I am bewitched, because I can't get through a single page without falling asleep. I mean, I get about halfway through the page and then I'm like, your eyes are closed. Your eyes are closed. Open your eyes. And it's not because I'm bored. I want to read the book. But I just, for whatever reason, I doze off. It is kind of incredible how different the book is from The Glutton, both in its language, the writing style, everything. It's not a bad book. I just can't seem to stay conscious. And when things start going in this direction, I do what I always do, and I picked up another book and started reading it at the same time, and that was Tommy Orange's Wandering Stars, which is excellent. It's a generational story. It tackles addiction, gun violence, assimilation, all kinds of things. Like, there's a lot of material to really sink your teeth into. I'm enjoying it. I just started part 2. There's a chapter in the book, chapter 12, called Victory, that could easily stand alone as a chapbook. I mean, it was very reminiscent to me of the Between the World and Me, is that the name of it? The Coates book. Very, very, very powerful work. Tommy Orange is a wonderful author. If you haven't read There, make sure you read that before reading Wandering Star, because there is a connection between the two. Wandering Stars is definitely saving the week, because I do think that I was in a bit of a slump. I think it was coming off of Michael Cunningham's novel Day, which was, in my opinion, a total snooze fest. Very dull book. And then going to those 2 incredible book events back to back and meeting some of my favorite people in the world, Patti Smith and Judy Blume. I just looked at my books and I was like, yeah, not right now. I just didn't feel motivated to read much this week. It was also very rainy. My sinuses were a nightmare. So today's kind of been the first day of the week where I've really felt motivated to read, and I think that's in large part to taking on a new book. And Tommy Orange, again, he's just so talented. If you haven't read his books, be sure to check them out. Well, judging by Ace's snoring, I think maybe this is a good place to stop. Oh, look who just came too. Hey, dude, you want to go outside? You want to go outside? Hey everyone, I am on my way to see my friend Dash. He's in this new musical called Dead Outlaw. It's having its last performance at the Minetta Lane Theater. From what I understand, it's been recorded for Audible, so at some point everyone should be able to at least listen to it. But the reviews have been incredible, and word of mouth has been off the hook. So I'm really proud of him, and I can't wait to see what this show has in store. It sounds like it's my type of musical, so I'm really looking forward to it. everyone, happy Monday. It has turned out to be an absolutely beautiful day. It almost feels like summer, but it's not too hot. It's perfect. Let's talk about books for a second, because what else are we going to talk about on the BookTube channel? I am almost finished with Tommy Orange's book, Wandering Star, and I have to say, if you are looking for a good book for a book club, I would highly recommend that novel. There's so many topics that are handled with that book, everything from race and cultural appropriation, addiction, alcoholism, gender, sexuality, self-harm, but it's not done in a way where it feels like pandering or sort of like checking off the issues, like, oh, dealt with that one, oh, dealt with that one. No, it's seamlessly integrated into the story. It is so well done, and it's everything that Michael Cunningham's Day was not, because this book is also not super plot driven. I mean, there are plot points, but it mainly is sort of an examination of characters, just like Michael Cunningham's Day was. But this one is totally engrossing. I have loved it. It's easily going to be a 4-star read without even having finished it. And there's also many chapters in the book. Well, not many. I would say 2. There's 2 standalone chapters that could easily work as a chapbook. Chapter 12 is called Victory, and I think that one is very comparable to the book Between the World and Me. Really just fantastic book. So I am just about done with that. I'm about halfway through A.K. Blakemore's Manning Tree Witches, and I gotta say, it's not what I was hoping for. It's not bad, it's not comparable at all to The Glutton, which is one of my favorite books of the year. I can't toot the horn enough about The Glutton, but this one is very meh, so far. But I mean, again, I'm halfway through and it's still meh. That's not a good sign. Oh yeah, P.S. by the way, Dead Outlaw, the musical I saw yesterday, was exceptional. And I'm not just saying that because I had a friend that was in the cast. It was one of the best musicals I have seen in years. I'm hoping to God it's revived or, transfers to Broadway. It deserves to. It truly does. And what a wacky story. It's based on a true story about a guy named Elmer McCurdy, who was sort of this flunky railroad robber. Like, he wasn't really ever successful at robbing trains. He was shot and killed at the age of 30. But that's really kind of where the story takes off. The musical mainly focuses on what happened to his body after he was killed. Like, it went on an adventure of its own for 60 years. And it wound up being discovered in a dark ride in Long Beach, California, of all places. So I found a book that tells the story, so I'm gonna read further about it. But it was just a fascinating story. It was so well done. The music was sort of a mix of rock and country and punk and even a lounge song at one point. But I loved it. I loved it. Good morning. It's Tuesday. I have to give myself a little pat on the back because last night I shot and edited my first original tag video to celebrate 1,000 subs. It's called Stay Gold, and I scheduled it to post early in the morning. And then I also edited the footage from the author event and scheduled that to post on Wednesday. And I intend to do the same for the following week. So I am slowly learning, I think, how to become a booktuber. I'm not recording, editing, and uploading everything the day of, which I think is a big step in the right direction, because that's just a crazy way to operate. But I'm not going so far ahead that it's not sort of relevant to what's going on. I hope, at least that's the goal. But yeah, I think I'm getting the hang of this. treating myself today for no particular reason. I'm on 5th Avenue. I need to pick up a new hoodie, like a zip-up hoodie. I've worn this one out. Feels like it's about to rain, which is perfect timing because I got this little light pullover from Uniqlo, and it's got the a hood built into the collar, so if it does start pouring down rain, I can just go. Then I also picked up a hoodie that zips up, and then another kind of pullover that has a bunch of pockets and zippers on it, which is really important. Uniqlo has this crazy checkout center where you just put your clothes in the basket and it automatically knows what you have put in the basket. Like, you don't have to scan tags or anything. And I looked it up, and apparently there are chips built into their tags, and the basket has some sort of technology where it reads it through radio waves or something like that. So yeah, it's odd. And it confuses people. It really confuses people too. Like, the poor girl that works there was like, I can only help one person at once, because everyone wants to scan the tags, but you don't scan the tags. I am reading the Monk and Robot books. Everyone has been talking about how great they are. And Manning Tree Witches is just going a little slower than I want it to. I'm halfway through the book, and the plot is starting to pick up now. Like, things are being set into motion, but it's still really slow. And these are 2 short books, and everyone seems to really, really love them. And they're very short. I think I can probably finish the first book today and maybe the second book tomorrow. But yeah, doing that just to switch up the pace, because this month has been really slow going, and I'm not a fan. How many of you stayed up last night to listen to the new Taylor Swift album? Be honest. I did. And you can imagine how my jaw hit the floor when Patti Smith was name dropped in the title song. That was pretty wild. And then, just when you thought you were through, at 2 a.m., she drops 15 bonus songs. Those are not bonus songs. That's an entire album. I have about 35 pages of Manning Tree Witches left, and the weather seems to be cooperating, so I thought I would walk down to the park and finish the book outside. But there's something I want to show you right over here. There's a rock that has a lot of significance when it comes to the history of New York and Manhattan in particular. And it's not the greatest history, but it's one that I think you should see. Okay, so let's talk Manning Tree Witches here for a minute. Like The Glutton, this is a book that is based on actual events and people that existed. However, the story doesn't really get going till about 150 pages in. And for me, the pacing just really kind of killed the book. It's also written in a way that's sort of, I guess you could describe it as, well, I don't know, poetic doesn't seem right, but there's like hints of the old language, and I don't know, I just had the most difficult time staying awake reading this book. I think A.K. Blakemore is a fantastic writer, and if anything, this just shows how much she has grown as a writer from her debut novel to The Glutton, which I may have to retroactively change to a 5-star read, because I am always talking about how great it is, and so far it is my favorite book of the year, along with James. James was also really great. And maybe that explains why I had such a tough time getting through this book. To start off the month reading Huckleberry Finn and James really set a high bar. And I followed that up with Michael Cunningham's Day. And that is a book that has very little plot. It's completely character-based. The only problem is the characters are just sort of wallowing in their own misery. And I didn't really feel invested in any of them. I didn't really care about their stories. And they seemed very sort of stereotypical and basic. And then, of course, I follow Day Up with The Manning Tree Witches, another slow-paced book. And it just made for a very kind of meh reading month. So to switch things up, I picked up the Monk and Robot books. I enjoyed both of them. Both of those books were 4 stars. Even though they're quick, fast reads, they still pose some really interesting philosophical questions. And yeah, I would recommend those 2 books for sure. So I've got about 35 pages left of The Manning Tree Witches, and I'm going to finish it here in the park, and I will report back once I'm done. Well, kids, it's Saturday. We made it. Ace has a vet appointment today at 3 o'clock. And right now, it looks like they're setting up for this big event. And chances are they're going to be shutting down the streets. So I hope we can get there. Yesterday, I finished The Manning Tree Witches, finally. And I even shot a little video of myself reading it, just to put on the channel, because I know some people like those videos where it's just like background noise. I'm not gonna be making a bunch of those, but it's there if anyone wants it. Oh, you guys, I think I discovered a Patti Smith inspired Easter egg in the new Taylor Swift video, Fortnite. So at the end of the video, Post Malone is singing in a telephone booth and it's raining, and Taylor Swift is sitting on top of the telephone booth. And at the very end, the closing shot, he steps out of the telephone booth and they hold hands and they do sort of a zoom in on their hands, and he's wearing a big ring. And I think it is a reference to the Patti Smith song, Because the Night. In that song, there's a lyric that says, "Have I doubt when I'm alone? Love is a ring, the telephone." So, just a theory, but this might be the album that turns me into a Swiftie. Let me ask you a question. Do you think, by any chance, this book is used? What do you think? 16 stickers on this book telling me that it is used. Inside, of course, tons of annotations and highlights on practically every page. I bought this off of eBay from a seller that has stock images. Never again. This is something that Book Chat with Pat talked about in her I'm So Annoyed video. I've written them a nasty note. I said, you know, I want to touch base with you before I leave negative feedback, but no, especially if you're going to make me wait 2.5 weeks to get the book and then you surprise me with this turd. This isn't acceptable, right? I'm not being extra, right? This is not okay.
When you start and so I just want to talk about this cookbook. You just came out with a new cookbook.
Hello, everybody. It is Sunday, and I have to say, for a week that I spent complaining about having a slow reading month, I think I have more books to talk about right now than I have in any other week. As you have seen, I was having a really difficult time getting through The Manning Tree Witches. I think that this book doesn't succeed as well as it could had it been a nonfiction book, or if it had had some sort of, I don't know, fantasy element or something new, because, you know, you pick this book up and you just go, well, obviously it's a witch hunt. There's nothing real. Oh my God. If I had a quarter for every time I heard that this week. But I guess what's coming to my mind is Slewfoot, right? I think it was another bibliophile. He was reading Slewfoot and he didn't like it because he didn't feel like the author did enough historical research. And I feel like this is a book where the author did do their historical research, but it fails as a story. It just wasn't very engaging. The pacing is molasses for the first half of the book. Once the story gets going, things pick up, obviously, but you already know what's going to go down because, you know, if you have any background knowledge of the witch hunts, or if you've read or seen a performance of The Crucible, you know what happens. There's nothing new. There is maybe, you could argue like one character gets their comeuppance, but other than that, to get through that book, I picked up Becky Chambers' Monk and Robot Duology. The first book is called A Psalm for the Wild-Built, and its sequel is A Prayer for the Crown-Shy. Both of these books were super fast reads, and even though they're short and sweet, they had a lot of depth. They raised some interesting philosophical questions, and the character of the monk and the robot parallel each other in some really interesting and unexpected ways. Yesterday morning, I started reading Whoopi Goldberg's new memoir, Bits and Pieces. This is coming out May 7th, and I finished the entire book yesterday. It's so well written, which really should not surprise anyone because, as she points out, she's written one-woman shows, stand-up comedy, children's books, books for adults. But I think this is where she really shines. You get a real sense of who her mother and her brother were and the impact that they made on her life and the lessons that they taught her. It's just a beautiful love letter to both of them. And then in the end of the book, she discusses the importance of having those really difficult conversations with family members about what to do if you're, you know, facing a life-threatening health emergency, or, you know, if someone passes, what do you want to happen? How should you handle that? And how often should you have those conversations? And this morning, I started reading Goyhood, which I'm enjoying so far. I'm not terribly far into the book. I'm on chapter 5. But sort of the big secret has been revealed. And so far, it's a lot of fun. That was my reading week. And I have good news to report on Ace. Yesterday was his final follow-up visit. They found a little bit of yeast in one of the ears, but it's nothing like how we started this misadventure. She was really, really pleased with how far he's come. She said all of the redness and the infection was gone. And they went ahead and did a little bit of treatment in that ear, but we don't even have to go back and do a follow-up. She said that she was certain it was going to knock it out. She was really, really pleased with how far he's come. And, whoo, wasn't me. Little goober. There's a hair on my camera. Hello everybody, welcome to the Mild Rumpus, coming at you live from the House of Flimsy, my dilapidated one-bedroom apartment located here in New York that is filled with books and noise. Today I'm going to be doing the quarter year, what is it called? Oh, Ace is right here. Hey buddy. The books, as far as the type of book, oh, we'll save that one for later. You good? Ace is making himself at home. He's, you know, rooting. He's good. This is a nonfiction book. It talks about her and a group of friends going to gather seeds in the Himalayas, and just the way that, yes, this is a nonfiction book. I think I'm having a stroke. What am I trying to say? According to Storygraph, my top 3 genres are literary, historical, and classic. And I have to say that I was surprised by historical because I thought that was a genre that I don't usually gravitate towards. But I guess when you look at the books that I've read this year, they have. Okay, I'm rambling. Question number 7. One goal you are succeeding at. Oh my God, I'm dying. I'm okay, Ace. You should see the look he's giving me. Out of all of the books that I've read so far, only 11% have been nonfiction. The other 89% has been fiction. And if you think I did that math on my own, you are very much mistaken. That comes courtesy of Storygraph. And I will see you very soon. Have a good one. Happy reading. Bye. Hey, good morning. Happy Wednesday. I'm just catching wind about this book convention that took place over the weekend. It was called Readers Take Denver. I've seen a couple of people talk about it, and it sounds like it was a total flustercluck. Like a lot of people left not only upset, but kind of traumatized by the whole thing. And that's including the authors and the attendees and everyone. So I'm just starting to learn some of the details, but it doesn't sound like the organizer is really taking any responsibility for things that happened, and there's a lot of upset people. So if you know anything about it, or God forbid you went, spill the tea. It sounds like it was sort of the bookish version of the Fire Festival. It's a bummer when things go south. And I feel bad for everyone that attended and thought they were going to have a good time, because it can be expensive to attend those events. You know, you got your hotel, you got travel. I'm sure you brought a ton of money to buy things, and, you know, I don't want to kick anyone while they're down, but it does sound like it was a nightmarish situation. And I think whoever needs to take responsibility should take responsibility and try to make things right, because otherwise I don't see a future for that event. I don't think anyone that experienced that is going to want to do it again. It's a bummer. The cutest thing happened this morning. I was watching a, what do you call it? An off the top of your head tag video. And Ace was sitting right next to me, and he sat straight up. And I have never seen him watch with such intensity. He was just glued to the television, and he watched the entire video. And so I think Ace has found his favorite booktuber, and it's not me. Ace has got us out here today in the middle of nowhere. Let me know if you see Bigfoot. I finished reading Boyhood yesterday, and it was really, really good. It was a fun read. It's about 2 brothers, sort of a road trip novel. Their mother unexpectedly dies, and she drops a huge bomb on them that really kind of shakes up their lives and sets them on a journey. It makes them question a lot of things, their identity, their religion, all sorts of things. And it's another book I could see easily adapted into a movie. And then I started The 3-Body Problem, and I'm about 50-something pages in. I just finished part 1, which is set in the 60s, and I snuck a peek at part 2, which is called 3-Body, and it's 40 years later. So I'm gonna read more of that if we ever get back inside. He's so particular about where he poops. Like, he's got to find the perfect spot, and it's always, you know, where no living creature is going to witness it. Okay, good boy. There's a whole bunch of videos I want to shoot before the end of the month. I want to do for people April another bookshelf tour, and the This or That tag video that Book Chat with Pat tagged me in. And then, of course, I need to do the monthly wrap up and then the May TBR video. But that's 4 videos back to back. I'm trying to shoot my this or that video, get a load of my little quarterback. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. Oh! Hey, it's Saturday and today is Independent Bookstore Day. So I'm here in Brooklyn. There's a big bookstore crawl. I don't know how much of that I'm gonna do, but right now I'm headed over to Books Are Magic because I've never been. That was a lot of fun. Books Are Magic did not disappoint. I got some great stuff. I'll share it with you later. Right now, I'm headed to Lincoln Center to see the Keep Going songs. It's a new play I know nothing about, but I'm meeting up with my friend Steven, and we're gonna go see that. You all good? You sure? Okay. Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Let's wrap this week up. So it turns out that the show I saw yesterday was not a play, but in fact a song cycle called the Keep Going Songs, performed by a duo called the Bingsons. They are a married couple, Abigail and Sean Bingston, and they're raising kids in Queens, and in their spare time, you know, they do things like win the Jonathan Larson and Richard Rogers Awards. They get nominated for Drama Desk Awards and Lucille Lortel Awards, you know, as one does. But yeah, it was very, very interesting. I didn't know what to expect going in. And basically, the day that they received the invitation to perform at Lincoln Center, Abigail's brother died. His name was Peter. And so it's sort of a song cycle about life and death and grieving. And it sounds like a downer, but it's actually, and sometimes it might, yeah, there were a lot of tears. But it was also at the same time very uplifting. And if you're in town, check it out. It's playing at Lincoln Center. And I got a lot of reading done on the way to and from Brooklyn and to and from Lincoln Center. I'm now halfway through the 3-Body Problem. I'm on page 223, and the next part of the book where it's divided up is on page, wait for it, 248. So yesterday was Independent Bookstore Day, and I had a great time. I went down to Brooklyn. I visited Books Are Magic. I was going to do the book crawl, but I decided against it just because I knew I needed to get back home to walk Ace in time to, you know, go back up to see the show with my friend. So I picked up a lot of swag, and I'm going to show it to you now. Let me just say that their merch is off the hook, and I want everything. Like, everything. The tumblers, the mugs, the t-shirts, the tote bags, like chef's kiss when it comes to their merchandising. In this trip, I got their tote bag. This is the Books Are Magic tote bag. And I got 2 t-shirts. I got the Bubble Text tee. And then I also got the hipster hot pink kitty cat t-shirt. Like, how could you pass that up? So those are the two that I got. But like I said, it's not going to be my last visit, and I want the entire collection eventually. I also picked up 2 books. This one, you're going to be shocked that I haven't read yet. Night Bitch. I think everyone has read it. It's about a woman, I think, who is gradually turning into a dog. And then this is one that has been recommended to me by so many of my viewers, and I know that it was a 5-star read for Suey over at Suey's Book Banter, so I cannot wait to dig into it. It's Remarkably Bright Creatures. The only thing is, thanks a lot, Jenna, but I couldn't pass it up because look, not only is it signed, the author drew a little octopus. How cool is that?
I guess I want to start at the beginning with this movie. How did you guys get involved? This was a huge bestseller, The Devil Wears Prada. How on earth do you turn this into a movie, and where does that process start?
I felt like we had all been Andy, and we'd all been strivers, and I certainly had been that person. But then I also felt very connected to Miranda, trying to get anything done, and how exhausting that was. And I think, you know, my main take on it was that it contained its own parody. That was one of the first things I remember saying to David, like, you don't need to exaggerate any of the things in fashion because it's already so silly that it doesn't require any embroidery. They're very, very seriously talking about tassels and belts, and so it didn't really need any exaggeration, and that was one of the fun things about writing it, was sort of the more po-faced it was, the better it worked. And then I was just, you know, we'd spent so much time talking about the script, and then they sent it to Meryl to read, and I remember where I was standing, and David called me and he said, well, she said she'll meet with me, and I was standing on the sidewalk, and I sat on the curb, like, I popped myself on the curb, because I knew that when they met, that would be it, because he's so, you know, smart and brilliant, and she's so smart and brilliant. I knew that was going to be a match made in heaven, and so I just sat on the curb, clutching my phone.
I knew, you know, the book was based on Anna Wintour and an assistant that she had working for her, wrote the book, and I have to admit I've never read the book. Because it's a different thing, and I wanted very much to do a different thing, because there was something mean-spirited in the and I thought there was more understanding, or at least comprehension of this character that's probably pretty complex, and it would be fun to explore that. So, yeah, I remember seeing a model. There are very few older models working, but there was one named Carmen.
Carmen with the white hair.
Carmen with white hair, but that's not her last name.
I think Diorio. I think her last name is Diorio.
Becky with the good
that's it. And I always thought, because she was the only older model you ever saw anywhere in any fashion magazine, and I thought she was exquisite looking, and so I copied her sort of color.
See, I never knew that.
And then I had just come off of acting in a movie with Clint Eastwood, and I watched how he ran the set, and he barely raised his voice. And the whole crew was, you know, just ready.
Your scenes are almost always in silence. And the scenes with the chef and the boyfriend and the friends are always like kind of cool for 2006 music playing. And it's always kind of loud, and then you actually have to be quiet in her scene. So it also dictates some of the music choices in the film, I would imagine. That choice of this like quiet power.
Yeah, to lean in. So every time she's on screen,
the audience has to lean in the same way that her assistants have to lean in.
Yeah, but that entrance and everything, that's him. He set that up. So, you know, the anticipation and the whole thing, that's building a scene. That's just masterful, the way he did that. But I also think that they taught me in drama school how, you know, the professor said, how do you be a king? You know, how do you convey power, real power? And everybody said, you know, you're and he said, it's not your problem how you convey power. Everybody else in the room conveys your power. You don't have to do anything. You just come in, sit down, and it's what everybody else does around you. The scurrying, the worrying,
Annie wanted to do the movie. She was the first person I met for the role. And then her agents asked for too much money. And the studio said, fine, we don't need her. And I met with every other famous young actress in Hollywood. And in fact, we offered the role to every. I mean, this is not a big secret. This has been written about. Rachel McAdams was offered it 3 times. Scarlett Johansson was offered it. Kirsten Dunst was offered it. At least 3 or 4 other women. And eventually, and they all turned it down. And we were shocked. And at one point, the studio said, well, I guess we can't make it. But Meryl's doing it.
and then I asked for double my salary. Years old to know that, you know, you can ask for more than they offer you, which...
Well, Meryl called the head of the studio and said, I think Annie would be great. And Meryl got...
The Princess of Genovia. Nothing to know. I heard a great story from Emily Blunt, because I got to work with her on a movie, and she said, it wasn't like Daniel Day-Lewis, you had to call her Miranda on set. But it was kind of in the mode, and she was not particularly warm toward me and Annie. And then on my last day of shooting, I left, and I was like getting ready to go, and then this completely different person named Meryl Streep found me over, hi, you're so great!
Okay, so I was miserable. I was sitting in my trailer making myself miserable because I felt like misery was an important central characteristic of this person. And as I watched the film this time, I have to say that I don't know whether you feel that we're saying with the film, you know, if you work hard and you do your job and you demand excellence, and that often takes, as you know, many, many hours in the day, right? And you don't get home, and you don't pay attention to all the things you should pay attention to. And I wondered if our film is saying, yeah, you gotta choose. You gotta be a human being, or you gotta be...
And you're gonna be tired. She's so tired.
Yeah, so that's my question for you. You can answer this.
You have time to be a human being if you're achieving at that level.
How do you deal with the legacy of this film? All these, I mean, you heard these rock star entrances and the leaves and cheers. I mean, this felt like an opening weekend screening. You guys were incredible tonight.
I really did. Can I tell my favorite story from the shoot?
Yeah, please.
So we're shooting the scene where Nigel learns that he doesn't get the job. We're on Stanley's close-up, and he's smiling and laughing. And I cut, Stanley, what are you doing? And he said, well, I said, why are you laughing? He goes, oh, well, I'm taking it in stride. She told me already. We had a meeting, she told me this was happening, and I know, and I'm just going, I'm being polite. And I go, no. This is the moment at the Oscars when they're announcing the Best Actor winner, and you didn't have to look like you're happy for the person who did it. And Meryl said, I can do that. I've done it 11 times.
I'm racking my brain thinking of what I need to ask about, and I realize I've not asked about the fashion of this movie. Patricia Field, who is your costume designer. Those outfits all still hit. I mean, first of all, like, kudos to you for trying to make Anne Hathaway look schlumpy, like,
Yeah.
But also Anna was very, very generous about it because she hosted a benefit screening for us, and we donated to Dress for Success, and she gave some of the clothes to do that, and I sat behind her at the screening, and my heart was going, and she was sitting with her daughter, and her daughter was laughing her head off. She wore Prada. She wore Prada on the screen.
Anna wore Prada too.
Very cool.
That's amazing.
When people talk to me, they say, what is she thinking when she's smiling? And Andy, when she sees her throw the phone in the fountain in Paris, yeah. They want to know.
Oh, it's in New York. It's a very.
Oh, and the last one.
Yeah.
She both smiles a little bit.
Right. Okay.
She smiles when she's in the car, and people want to know, what are you thinking, man? You know, are you happy that she escaped? Are you thinking, because she says, you know, I see a lot of you in me. When I just saw it this time, I haven't seen this movie in how long ago? It's like 16 years ago, isn't it?
I don't think it's, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. So.
We've all watched it a lot more than you.
So I was surprised by some things in it, and but one of them was how ambiguous it is, and I knew what I was thinking, but I don't have to tell anybody.
Well, Ace has me out here in the bushes again to take a poop. Yesterday was so much fun. I don't think that I've seen The Devil Wears Prada since it was originally in the theater. And not every joke aged well, but it was still so much fun. And to get to see it with Meryl Streep was just such a cool opportunity. And that, by the way, is thanks to Lin-Manuel Miranda's family. They have poured a ton of money into the United Palace Theater in Washington Heights. Lin-Manuel Miranda hosts a film series there where he brings in special guests, and some of the previous movies he's done has been like Indiana Jones with Steven Spielberg, Black Swan with Darren Aronofsky, When Harry Met Sally with Billy Crystal. Like, he brings in the big guns, and it's going to be hard to top Meryl. I also finished reading The Three-Body Problem, and wow, I think I got the main concepts of the book. Like, I understand the story, but the science in that book is just wild. I don't know if it's real or not. The author sure made it sound convincing, but I felt pretty dumb the majority of the time reading that book. But I do intend to continue on with the series. Now I'm reading Diavola. Is that how you say it? Diavola. I got that from the library, so I just started that. That's what I'm up to. Tomorrow night I'm going to go to Joe's Pub to see Justin Vivian Bond perform. So that'll be a blast as well. So this is going to be a fun week.